side, and you'll see it when I turn off. No, great point, because we were talking about this a little bit last night. I wanted to do something to be in front of people digitally that didn't involve me saying, how much is your house worth? Do you want to sell your house? That kind of thing. It's the same scenario. You see the words Remax behind me, you know what I'm doing, right? You know what I'm talking about. You see the balloon, you know what I'm talking about. But I want to do something, and COVID made that really clear, because I'm not a digital fan, not good at it. I keep saying that. I'm getting better at it, but it's not something I want to do. I'd rather be belly to belly, right?
Yeah.
Chamber events, youth sports. I get a lot of business out of my kids' sports. They're like, why do you spend so much money on youth sports? I'm like, because I get business out of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so to your point, when I started researching the podcast thing, and I was like, God, that's a lot of work. And there's usually you don't have one, I don't think, but there's usually a producer, the bigger podcast. And you step back and like, what do I want to do? I want it to be simple and quick, a little bit of research, and boom, go. And that's how we found this live casting thing.
Yeah.
Now, what you were saying about Mac didn't support 2 audios on a GarageBand, I'm running in that all day long. I got this older computer, it's slow, so I'm in this room rather than my office, because this is where the ports are. It works a little better if I plug it in as opposed to do the Wi-Fi on StreamYard. And so that's why we're here. But yeah, he's got that nice equipment back there, which is the greatest thing to use. And if I can get it plugged, say again.
I'm hoping down the road, I'll be able to advance into some other, technologies and grow into a space where, like, there's a lot of spaces here in Chicago where you can go and just, pay a monthly fee, I guess, or one-time studio fee or hours, where you're able to just go and record your out of there, and they will help produce it. That's a part of that fee. I'm hoping that's where I would like to go soon with the show.
Nice. Well, that's a perfect segue. Thank you guys for joining Manning the Grill, episode 12. I'm Black AF, I'm gay AF, now what? My 50, sponsored by Dreamland Real Estate, Remax Preferred, my 52 series lunch chat about random anything, right? So today I'm really honored to have my cousin and host of the Ben Atkins Show, Ben Atkins. How you doing, Ben?
Hello.
Hey, man.
Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you. Like I was telling you a little bit earlier, for those out there listening, this live stream that we're doing, I just said it a second ago, I needed to do something digital. I wanted to do something unique and different. Yeah. And whenever we had done interviews, or I do a lot of video emails, so my emails will have video on them. A couple of people in my networking group were like, you're so comfortable doing that, why don't you try podcasting? Like I said, research podcasting. It's just a little more than I want to do. You do a great job of promoting. So I follow you on Instagram, maybe my cousin, so I'm probably a little biased, I'll be frank. But you do a phenomenal job promoting and what you got coming up, and there's space between them. I wanted to be a little more quick, a little more, just hit it and quit it, right? And so I didn't want to promote. I didn't want to take the time. My life is crazy, right? So when you put your podcast out, the first version of the chat, that's when I was like, man, my cousin's doing it. Why can't I? God damn it. So I got to give you a little gratitude and thanks a little bit, because you kind of tipped me over the edge to do this platform that we're doing now. So like you were saying, there's plenty of room to grow. The mixer, there's all kinds of effects you can get into podcasting and streaming, and even cheap. If I want to do it, poor man style, I could take this recording, cut it up, and make it different segments. I'm trying to get to that point, right? Just use this 30 minutes, this content, cut it up and use it multiple times. If I was smart, I could do that. But real estate agent does it all. So anyway, enough about me, cuz. I wanted to ask you, like I said, I've enjoyed your podcast. It's actually really, really cool. I listened to the first episode, and second one, I lost a couple weeks went by. Third episode was out, kind of like a Disney Plus show, right? Like, new one's out, right? What did you see? Tell me about you a little bit, and then what did you see in the marketplace that made you want to take the step and actually host a podcast?
Okay, so I work in corporate America. I am a software project manager by day, and I a lot of my time is spent in just my work. And so, before COVID, I had lots of meetings every day. I felt like I never got anything done, and I was a normal project manager, and it was, I functioned in that space. But then when COVID started and we were at home, I realized how much more time I actually had. And then with all of the more visual, and I'll say it that way, the more visual actions of police brutality with George Floyd's death and Breonna Taylor's death, it really made me think, how am I affected by this, and what does this mean? So I started, watching all the protests and the peaceful protests, and listening to the different news stories and a lot of celebrities coming forward and having conversations around, how they felt and what this means to the Black community. I personally, I didn't know what to do. And so I ended up watching James Baldwin's I Am Not Your Negro documentary. And he said something so profound for me. He said, you have to understand what your lane is. And he talks through when he was asked to join the NAACP or the Christian church movement or the Black Panther Black Panther group. He's like explaining why he did not join these different groups and what it meant. And at that moment, I realized I am not someone that's going to go jump in the street. That's just not me. I'm not going to go walk down the street and protest. That's not my lane. I am an educated corporate professional, and there's other ways to do things. But I really started thinking, who's talking to the corporate professionals? Because we're not in the streets.
Right.
And oftentimes there's very few of us in our workspaces. I'm one of maybe 5 managers in a global company that look like me in the Chicago area. So I started thinking, wow, I am always coaching and mentoring Black people who work with me, our younger associates. Some of them are fresh out of college, don't have much experience, and they're trying to grow in their career. And so they come to me and a few other of our Black managers in my company. And that's when it hit me. I was just like, okay, I want to communicate to this particular population of individuals, Black young professionals, because no one's coaching them. The people who we used to look up to are retiring and they're leaving the space. So now, I said to one of my colleagues, I said, we're becoming those older mentors now. We're in our mid-30s, but we're becoming those older mentors that these younger folk are going to look up to and need some guidance. And it is our duty to reach back and help them. So I came up with the idea of just focusing on this particular demographic, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do that, what avenue or what platform I wanted to use. So at first I thought about live streaming, when Instagram went live, they had that feature.
Oh yeah, Reels and all that mess.
Yeah, I thought about doing that. But I didn't realize I listen to podcasts every day. I have a few people that I listen to every day on my way to work, now in the mornings, and it's kind of my routine. And I was just like, I wonder if I could get into this in this space. And so I did some research, kind of looking like, what's out there. How do I do it? First, I thought I could just go through just Spotify. So I'm going through all these different, trying to figure out how do I do this. And finally, I came across a tool, Buzzsprout, or it's very much like Anchor, where you post on their site and they distribute to the other sites for you. Okay. And not just Spotify, but Apple Podcasts and all these other Google Podcasts. And so that worked out that way. And I am now entering my 3rd season.
Nice. That's amazing. That's a great story. So that kind of talks about, you were trying to address Blackness in your corporate America, what you've seen there. How did it get over to the gay part?
So I am someone that I've always been able to, I in the professional world, I have cis privilege. I can go into the workspace and present as a cis man and be respected as a cis man. And where some others in the LGBT community don't often get that same respect sometimes. So one of the things that I thought about in the beginning of the show, I kept making comments throughout the 1st season. I'm interviewing my guests, and in a lot of the situations we would discuss, I'm just like, yeah, as a Black man, but then I would think in the middle of the show, I'm just like, but this also affects me as a gay man. And then I started to dig a little deeper into that and kind of understand, like, what does this mean for me? So at the end of season 1, I started thinking, alrighty, what can we talk about around the LGBT community and what does this mean to me? And the first thing immediately jumped out at me, which was the Black community alone. First, I was sitting here going through season 1 of white people don't respect Black people in the workplace. These are issues that we're having. This is, but the working professionals, we can't come to work. You know what? Let me back up a little bit, because here's the real truth of why I did the podcast in Blackness. So I read a report that was done in 2019 by the Center of Talent Innovation, and they monitored multiple large organizations, one including Amazon. And they have all these reports in here basically showing, not basically, they are showing Black people in many circumstances are smarter, more educated, bring more to the table than our white counterparts, but we are always overlooked, we are underpaid, and we're very much so disrespected in the workplace. And that is what sparked my interest in wanting to talk about those issues. So in the middle of season 1, I realized, as I was making all these, connections to, Black people wanting to grow and be better, in the world, I'm just like, okay, how do we get this within our own community? And that's where I started thinking, okay, are we supporting ourselves in our own community? We once had before. We had communities, we had banks, we had grocery stores, we had community, but now that doesn't exist the same way because it's been stripped from us. We tried to get it, but every time we did, it was taken from us so egregiously by our white counterparts. And so then I got to a place of, all right, how can Black people be better with each other in the workspace? And then I started thinking, there's usually very few of us, and we oftentimes don't stick together. This is not everybody's experience, but this is mine. I've worked in companies where I was the only Black person, and then I'm in a global organization where in the Chicago area, out of management, there's only 5 of us. So I definitely can speak to this idea of I can see us and we don't always support each other. And we have to go out of our way to support each other and make sure each other know, hey, you can trust me. So with that information, I started thinking around who I am holistically as a Black gay man. And do I feel supported as a Black gay man? And do I feel supported within the community? And that's how I went into this segment of Blackness and the LGBT community and our relationship with the understanding of homosexuality and what this really means. And so that's where I altered the show and was just like, okay, I'm switching my name from the chat because I love the chat. It has a personal meaning for me. But the Ben Atkins show, Black and Gay as Fuck, this is what this show really is. It's about Blackness and gayness holistically because that's who I am. But as you've seen on the show, not all my guests are gay. Some of my guests are straight individuals, but they bring a perspective to the show.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I love that. I think that's why I relate to your show so much because we grew up, Ilana and I grew up very white community. There's some disconnects there for both of us. Some of them were annoying. Some of them you had to fight. You buried deep. You had to dig them out later. As I've gotten in about your age, I kind of just said, F it. I don't really care. I am what I am. This is what it is. But I know that feeling, right? When and I generally gravitate to more populated white things than I do more populated Black things. And I don't know why. I try the other way. It just kind of happens that way. But I know this, when I'm in my role or doing my thing, when I see a Black face, I literally get so excited. Hey, how you doing? I'm late. I gotta know you. I'm excited in my neighborhood. I live in a very white community of Verona. In my neighborhood, there's an HBCU grad, a FAMU girl dropped in there. And I was like, name's Dr. Green. Yes, girl, how you doing? Kind of thing, right? So I think that's one of the things I love about the subjects, the titles you're going to, et cetera, et cetera. You're doing a phenomenal job at it, by the way. One of the things I just quoted the article there when I was doing, again, slight bit of research, right? There's an article by a guy, a gay man in Hampton, Virginia, talking about not being accepted in the Black community as you're being gay, right? And it's weird because I've generally grown up around East Lansing, Michigan, been living in Madison, Milwaukee. I've lived in bigger cities where they were generally liberal. And to me, gay was never a thing. It was just like, I want cookies and cream or Superman ice cream. I'm heterosexual and gay, no big deal. We can still hang out. And I was thinking about this, and a lot of my very, very good friends are gay, like going back, right? Going way back. And it was a story I was telling someone. We went to the Rose Bowl last time Michigan went to the Rose Bowl. So that would have been like 2003. And we flew from Wisconsin to see some friends that live in LA. And they live in this dope little thing, Melrose Place, right? A square building, 8 units on top, pool in the middle, and all the balconies opened up to the center.
Oh,
and I wore my best thing, right? I wore just nice. I think I had some Lucky jeans on, and nice sweater, and I was looking good. And then all their gay friends showed up, and I was like, well, I'm glad I brought a girl because I ain't leaving today, right? It's on point. But those are two. I was thinking about a story, and that was years ago. Those are two of my best friends till this day. They got domestic partnership, live in the mountains in Utah. I value that. What has been your feedback when it comes to the gay part? Because one of the things I also enjoy about your podcast is learning things. For instance, you just said the term cis man, topper, bottom. If you're not gay or in the gay community, these are things you know. You're not going to ever find them out. They're just good to know. But what's been your feedback there? Because you're literally educating me, who have a healthy amount of gay friends, learning some different things. And one of the things, before you start, keep this in mind too, one of the most interesting things you said is you were doing one of your shows, you're talking about you had to consult with one of your LGBTQ counterparts on how they want to be referred to. And I was like, well, damn, that's even deeper. He's gay in the gay community, and he doesn't know how I'm sorry, it was a trans person. Sorry, it was a trans friend of yours. And he doesn't know how to refer to a trans person. So at the end of the day, it was all about education. As long as we all get educated, I think a lot of the gay, Black, all those problems will hopefully go away. But what's been your feedback on that?
Black people, especially people that I am connected with online, from Facebook to Instagram, they don't show love. If it's gay, they don't even comment, they don't like, they don't say anything unless it is something that they feel comfortable with. And it further reminds me, I'm not talking about the random people we follow on Instagram or Facebook. I'm talking about family and friends.
Sure.
But it's really nice and eye-opening because it's nice to know who really F with you and who don't, who really sees you holistically, and so that's the response that I've gotten. And for some people, like I did a show ending season 2 of my coming out, and with that, because I also was married to a woman for 4 years, and for church people who I have not spoken to in easily almost 10 years wrote me because of their guilt and how they feel, and asking the question, did I contribute to your trauma? Yes, you did. And
you wrote this letter, didn't you?
And it's like I didn't say to them directly because they wouldn't understand. But it's like, you're only writing me because you feel guilty, not because you truly want to say, hey, Ben, I'm sorry. Right. And so I let that go because I was able to let a lot of those things go over the years. But it's interesting to watch how our community as Black people, and this is why I did a show specifically around the church and gayness, because we say we love God, we love Jesus. A lot of times in the Black community, we are very boisterous around our love for the church. But when it comes to our children, if you are different, not just gay, you have a child out of wedlock, if you don't go to church anymore, they will stop loving you and think they are going into somebody's heaven. And I'm just like, how do you think you know God when he tells you clearly in his word, if you love me, then you love my people, my creation? Like, how is it that you're going to not love my people, but you say that you love me?
Right.
And so, it's interesting watching the responses or that I don't get, or the interaction. I try to interact with people sometimes on social media around certain topics. But one topic that was interesting to dive into, I called the first episode in season 2, what's your favorite position? And the reason why I did that episode, I had Dr. Marvin Langston out of San Francisco, California. I had him on the show. I called it that because oftentimes a lot of straight individuals will ask questions like, so are you the guy or the girl? And I'm just like, we're both guys. We're both guys. They'll say things like, are you a top or are you a bottom? And my response back to them is, how do you like it? That's inappropriate, right? Yeah. You wouldn't answer that question, right? So why would you ask me how I like my personal time? Right. It doesn't matter to you. Right. And it's that intrusiveness. And in that show, I love that Dr. Langston made a comment stating LGBT members have to protect themselves by not oversharing. We've been taught that because you don't understand that I have to share and teach you. No, it's the same thing with Blackness. White people, if you want to understand Blackness, if you are great, if you are blessed enough to have a Black person in your life who's willing to share information with you, good for you. Other than that, go pick up a book, turn on the news, and learn for yourself. But there's certain levels of boundaries and it's a lack of respect that people in the LGBT community are still not receiving.
Sure, that's media training. Like gayness isn't Freddie Mercury's lifestyle in the mid-70s, right? That's not that's not how gay people are.
Yeah.
You, me, they want to find someone, adopt a kid. I got several gay customers that want to just settle down, get a house, and literally adopt a child and raise a family.
Yeah,
exact same things I'm thinking, right?
But people think the gay community is so because it's what we put in the media, and I agree. It's horrible what we put in the media and the stigma that gay people have allowed. I love things like, Cicely Tyson made a comment in one of her last interviews with Oprah stating she never did certain types of roles because she did not want to portray a Black woman outside of being a strong, independent when they have to be and a leader. And so when I think about the gay community, I honestly don't like certain roles that I've seen in the media, television shows, movies, where they see Black men as super duper femme or feminine. And that's how I had an aunt who literally, after I came out, she goes, "Oh my God, you have to come meet my friend." I'm like, why are you doing that? Her perception of who I am was, she saw that in the lens of what she saw in Atlanta. And I'm like, that's not who I am. You don't have to act like that. And so
that's another thing. People don't realize Atlanta is actually very gay, like very gay.
Very gay.
Very gay. Go there, be a Black man, go there. You'd be like, okay, I see, right? Yeah.
But it's really changing that narrative that, like you said, gay people we're just like you. And it's like, and so when you have to say that, you have to ask yourself, how would I feel when I'm within my own people, my family, not just the Black community, but within my own family, and have to feel like I'm so different, like I'm from some other country or another culture that you just can't understand. And it's like, no, the only thing different between me when I was married and the me now is that I like men. That's it. And I'll give you a few, explanations to why I got married. I don't owe you that, but I'll share it with some people why I got married. But other than that, nothing has changed. All I did was get better.
Yeah,
that's it.
You did a whole podcast on why I got married.
Huh?
You did a whole podcast on why I got married. I like that one.
Yeah.
two of my best lesbian friends. She was married when we met, business colleague, etc. I caught them. I was the first one. Obviously, they had been doing their thing, but I'm the first one to ever see it. First one outside of those two to see it. We having some fun at a fundraiser, etc., etc. They were. I was like, oh, got it. Okay. So, long story short, 6 years later, again, immensely happy, in phenomenal positions. Just happy being happy living life, and living life as a lie sucks. Totally.
I did that show. I can't remember exactly what the title was, but it was about being available. And it was my friend, and she recently told me that she was gay. And one of the things that I said to her in the show was that, the universe, the world, God, your job, your career, everything about you, you cannot be your best self if you are hiding the most important thing about who you are. You're not available to the world when you don't offer authenticity. Yeah. And I learned that lesson the long way, but the moment after I got divorced, I spent some time away. I moved away from my family and just kind of got to know Ben all over again. Yeah. And literally my career exploded. My everything, finances got better. Student loans almost paid off. Like everything started coming together. The show, the types of friends that I desired to have, my self-esteem, my relationships with my family and everyone, it got better. I had to let go of some people and I had to be okay with that. Lots of therapy. I had to retrain myself. But the moment I became available was the moment that I was able to truly live an authentic life. And the benefits of living an authentic life for me personally have been astronomical. And I can't say it enough. When you are living in a closet, you wonder why things aren't happening.
Yeah, one of your interviews, I can't remember. I think it was the Why I Got Married interview. Who did you talk to on that one?
That was myself. I was why I got married. I was by myself.
Then the one right before that, it was another guy, another female who believed she was Seventh-day Adventist. Took her forever to come out. Didn't you interview a female that did the same thing? She was married and then got divorced and came out.
She was in a long-term relationship. She wasn't Seventh-day Adventist, but yes, that was the one before. Yeah, that was 7.
That was a great episode too, right? Listening to her talk about it from a female perspective, like you know what? I forgot to give you a little credit. So once again, we are talking with Ben Atkins, host of the amazing Ben Atkins Show. Cut me off track a little bit. Available on Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. He's also my cousin, doing phenomenal things. I want to promote him. You guys should go check out the podcast. One of the questions I had, I love this, by the way, too. The description is very simple, right? But the last line, my personal mission is to imbue us with the confidence that we need to be our authentic selves. First off, I love the term imbue. No one uses that, right? It's not a properly used term. If I remember correctly, it's to permeate or give out positive energy, right? Great use of the word there. But I just love it, to be your authentic self. And like I was kind of saying before, I always felt like I was stuck in this place between white and black. And your podcast, I think you relate to them because you're kind of stuck. We're stuck between white, black, gay, boss, etc. What do you got planned for season 3?
So, well, first I did a name change. So the show is the Ben Atkins Show, Black and Gay AF. You can find it on anywhere.
Legit Black and Gay AF.
Yes.
Oh, I just pulled it out of my butt to name this cat. Okay, cool. Perfect.
Yeah. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts, but most popular Apple Podcasts and Spotify, the Ben Atkins Show. Season 3. So I just recorded the first episode last week and started promoting it. It'll go live on Monday the 12th. So this episode is around finance and Black people and our relationship with money. You know, I speak to the idea of, you know, my mother is an educated woman who did a fantastic job raising 4 children. But when you don't have great, what's the way I want to say it? When you don't have the training around finance, not just paying your bills. Most Black people, I use my mom's experience because it's a real life experience for a lot of Black families. We know how to go get a degree. We know how to go to work and pay our bills. That was the relationship. And I saw myself, my sister and I making certain, similar money decisions that my mother made. And they're okay for now, for today, but not for long-term sustainability. So I brought in a good friend of mine who is an accountant, a financial advisor, and she comes and talks to us about, certain why do we have such a negative relationship with money, and how is it that we can change our relationship with money? But then we also talk to some of the background of how we got here. We as Black people have worked hard to get to a place of just sustainability, let alone we've had banks, we've had communities that were taken from us. So I have learned over the last year to not be so, not beat up on Black people so much, because I know I can be very hard on myself, and I will project that off to other Black people on how we can be better. So I no longer like when I hear Black people to say to other Black people, oh, that's an excuse. No, slavery is not an excuse, because when I'm still affected by it today, when I go to work, when I'm afraid to walk down the street right now to go to the grocery store in midday because I'm Black and gay, it is still a problem. So you cannot tell me to get over it. And so finances are still the same thing too. We are still struggling because millennials have learned how to go to work. Millennials are some of the most educated people in the world, and millennials in America, we make more than double what our parents made in their almost in most of their life. And so because of that, we aren't spending money the same way. Our parents, I use the example of my mother. She was able to take care of 4 kids with under $60,000 as a therapist. And I sit here and struggle at a 6-figure salary I live in the city too also, but we struggle because we have so many more student loans. We have so many more expenses. And then we choose to live for today. So we want the nice apartment today, and we want to travel. I pick up and travel whatever I want. So it's like having those extra expenses makes the difference, but how we can have both. And Jade Hendricks, she comes on the show and she talks to us about how we can have both. And so throughout the rest of season 3, because this will be the first episode, you're going to see a lot of shows that are more targeted around these types of areas. So when I choose this particular topic now, it will be, I'm going to try, because it's hard, because my podcast, they're not scripted. So I'd like to have a show where we are just talking about a specific issue that affects Black and gay people.
I'm glad you're not scripted, because that's real, right? Scripted means you can.
And sometimes I be talking stuff, and I have to. Like I'm editing the show from last week that I'm airing next week, and I said something. I'm just like, do I want to air that?
Another key difference between podcast and live stream, right? You have the ability to edit a podcast. Live stream is what it is. What I love there is you just literally started talking my language. So we grew up, and again, when I was your age and I got over this whole black-white thing in my head, I literally said to myself, my dad, a Black man related to your great-grandmother, right, her younger brother, moved us in this place. And if you look at the big picture, the reason he moved us to this place was he got 10 acres of land super cheap. He put a house on that 10 acres of land relatively economically, right? He did it so he could pay it off relatively quickly. So when he passed away, house, property, all of it, ours, taken care of, right? He didn't look at the surrounding of being near Blacks. He wanted to be where people's money, invested money, would grow. That was his whole thing. From the time I was a little kid to the time I got out of high school, my grandfather drilled this phrase into me. I'm running out of battery here, 1 second. Drilled this phrase into me. Gotta love live stream. Right? My grandfather drilled this phrase into me that I
think we're having some technical difficulties.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's still actually live. It is. It's still recording. I'll be dang. It was plugged into a power supply and it wasn't charging. So anyhow, sorry. Back to what I was saying, didn't miss a beat. Grandfather drilled into my head, you can't go wrong buying something God makes you more like. And if there happens to be a house on it, awesome. Great deal, right? And I see this, exactly what you're saying, because when my dad died, he was Jimmy in charge of the money. I was already gone. Yolanda was starting to leave. He died right before she graduated high school. My mom got in charge of all the money. She made horrible decisions that are haunting her till this day. Because the longer in life you make those bad decisions, the harder it is to overcome, right? Especially at their age, because You were saying us millennials, our income is going to mostly keep increasing, right? You're in your 30s now. In your 40s, you're probably going through the normal corporate thing of starting my own business. This might even be the impetus to that. You get your own business, your own media business, you never know. But that's because I was in corporate America too, right? Did it for years, just ground yourself out to a thing. And now I'm selling real estate, got my own business, That's the next step for you guys. You guys as millennials who are younger than me, because it's kind of been the trend, right? Yeah. Our parents didn't have that. So my mom, when she made these horrible decisions, I'm talking dumb decisions, like matching umbrellas that matched all her bags. And, she lived in an apartment and bought $2,000 worth of blinds. Like, she just didn't know the value of money, living within your means and investing. And that's why this episode, I'm very interested to hear Ms. Kendrick speak, because that is my whole goal in life as a real estate agent, to get first up. My favorite people are the bookends, right? First-time buyers, whether you're single, getting married, having your first kid, whatever the situation is, your first house, getting in the fight, and then the maturing downsiders. For two reasons, because their house can be sold to the other side as they start. And then the struggle we went through with my mom, trying to find her apartment at her age and her bad decisions. Fixed income.
I feel like when I think about these decisions, that Black people have made that did not yield a long-term result, because you bought things today. Like I said, I'm learning to not be so, even though they're not great decisions, indeed, They're not great decisions, because there is no long-term sustainability with when you buy material things like home decor and, unless you're doing.
My favorite, wheels, 25-inch wheels.
I am literally coming out of this idea of, like, I used to always have this thing like, when I have a 6-figure salary, and pay off my debt, I want to be able to buy whatever car I want, because I'll have a couple $600 a month to afford something. And I'm literally less than $10,000 away from being debt free, and I hit that 6-figure mark by the grace of God, and I'm just like, that car, just because I can afford it, what does it mean to me now? I'd rather go sit on somebody's beach whenever I want. Yes. I'd rather be able to, like, I love my condo. And so when I start thinking about the features of my condo, when I talk to a friend of mine who's a realtor, and she's always helping me kind of think through what I want long-term. And I'm just like, well, if I bought a condo, I would want floor-to-ceiling windows like I have now. I would not want to give that up. And she's like, those pieces that you want, you need to start considering that instead of that car note, instead of these extra price, you're going to pay for those things. You want your what do they call it? Beautification of your yard immediately. You need to have an extra 10 to 15, maybe $20,000 sitting aside so you can have someone come in. The bank ain't gonna give you that part. And I'm just like, okay, so it makes me think about my purchases. But like I said, people before often didn't think about those purchases because they grew up without it. So when they have the opportunity to get it, it was like, oh, I got it now. I grew up, I would call myself a privileged kid where I didn't have everything I wanted, but I definitely had everything I needed and some of the things I wanted. So I didn't grow up with this idea of I'm going to buy it because I didn't have it going up. We had a wonderful home. My mother always kept a nice new car, and I pulled them mugs up when I got my license. But like, but we had a good life. We had a really good life. And so I didn't have that thought. So my thing now is I want to be able to give something to my niece and nephew, because children aren't for me. I want to be able to give something to my niece and nephew. I want to potentially have a place where my mother can live if she needs it when she's older. And it's like my decisions now, I listened to, and that's the last thing I'm going to say. I listened to this, a podcast that Oprah did in her Super Soul Sunday when she shifted to podcast form. And I can't remember who it was, but it was on finance. And I think it was the CEO of Starbucks. And he said, somebody in the family has to sacrifice so the rest of them never have to. And when I think about that, that sits with me so much. When you have the opportunity to sacrifice and not buy everything that you want, get everything you need and some of the things that you want, but providing that long-term sustainability for your family financially, And so that's what that show, that's what the first show of season 3 is about. Black people and our relationship to money.
No, that's sustainability, long-term sustainability. That's perfect. because I meet so many brothers and sisters around me that are renting, and I'm like, I can literally rent's high in the Madison area, very high. College, Epic, State Capital. I can get you a house, even in this crazy market. We can get you into a house where you're paying less, slightly, but less than you're paying your rent, and you're saving money or generating equity. And equity here, and she'll talk about that too, right? Equity is the greatest thing to man because it's money you're making while you're sleeping. And that's a whole other episode, right? How do you make money when you're sleeping, right? So, anyway, given the technical difficulties, we are at 40 minutes. I said I'd keep it to 30. I appreciate your patience and going a little bit over. Once again, my cousin Ben Atkins hosts the Ben Atkins Show. The information is down there below. Let me show it one more time. Are the episodes not on the? I didn't have it out there because my computer went out, so my screen went away. Are the episodes not online anymore?
No, I took them off the website because I changed the website. So if they just go to my Instagram page, you can find my Instagram page at BENADK89. Follow me there and you will see all of the links to the show, my link tree. I'll also share that with you so you can leave on your site as well.
Awesome. Follow Ben at, what was your Insta one more time?
At BENADK89.
On Insta. Cool. Because I just put that in the comments, so all that should go to each of the streaming platforms should be in the comment section. If not, I'll make sure I get it behind there. So, last but not least, because thank you so much. We haven't. This is the second time I think we've actually met each other. I love this. I love that you were gracious enough to do it. I love that you're my cousin. You're doing this. It was so great. We lost this. I'm 15 years older than you. When my dad died, who was Gladys's 16 years younger brother, right? So the things are off. My first cousin is Doris, who's your grandmother, right?
Yeah, that's my grandmother.
Yeah, so we're just disconnected, wonky, right? And we always make fun of it. Kendra, Marcus, and Matthew, and Rodney, we always make fun of it because their parents are my first cousin, but I'm their age. It's the weirdest thing in the world. So you start rolling down the third level, it's even deeper. When you were born, I was 15. Dad was starting to die then. We were doing sports, going to go to college, etc. So it was a little disconnect. So I was just so happy and fortunate to meet you at Gladys's 100th birthday party celebration and make this connection. And that's what I'm saying. You never know. Good always attracts good. I'm not lying. You know this.
Yeah,
good always attracts good.
Absolutely.
And when I found you, and I was telling Kendra about this, she's like, "How do you even get in touch with him?" I'm like, met him at Gladys's party. I've been following his Instagram feed. He gave me a little inspiration, and I love that my cousin can do that. Well, I met Brittany. We were talking to Brittany. We were in Atlanta. We had her on one of the shows. Again, there were so many cousins that were produced in that period of time that I was like, I have no chance of remembering who they are. But I'm just like, I'm your cousin. I'm laid. Let's just hang for a bit, right? Because you're my people. So thank you for being such amazing people. Thank you for being my family. Thank you for giving me a little time on the show today.
Absolutely, no problem.
Take care, man. Don't go anywhere. I'll just end this real quick. I think it stopped.
No, it's still going. It's still going.
I really need another computer, I think. So it didn't broadcast